So let me also send you a link to the page I was looking at, Raw Material Session 3910 on the chakras. Just a good review for you if you want, because I had said that the basic energy of red ray, the basic strength, every word is important, the basic strengthening ray for each density. So the basic ray is one. Meanwhile, when the next paragraph Rob talks about the center of green, 4, they say this is again a basic ray, but not a primary. Primary 1, 3, 5. Basic is 1, 4, probably 7 as well. And so that's just what we talked about. So there's the substructure of the 7 rays are the basic rays, 1, 4. I would say probably 7. So it looks to me like 1, 4, 7. That is the staff of Caduceus, the Caduceus staff. And the 2 snakes, or the 2 vines winding up the Caduceus, which is Sushumna. The central channel of the back is Sushumna, right? And so from root chakra to heart chakra to crown chakra, right? So that's Muladhara, Anahata, Sahasrara, right? 1, 4, 7 in Sanskrit. Basic rays, I'd say, represents the key nodal points of the spinal column, or the Caduceus, or Sushumna from root to crown, around which Ida and Pingala are the 2 primary nadis of yin-yang, or male-female, or fire-water, or sun-moon, whatever, which would be 2, 4, 6, and 1, 3, 5, 7. And they're not things, they're intelligent energy radiance attractivity. The attractivity of 1, 3, 5, 7 and 2, 4, 6 is akin to the nadis of Ida Pingala. They may not even be channels, but sort of resonance lines. I mean, people who know about electromagnetics actually could apply that very well to the metaphysics of the 7 rays. But Ida Pingala in Sanskrit being, I always forget if it's moon, sun, sun, moon, being the 2 basically functional property, the essential functional polarity of intelligent energy being associated with Ida Pingala. And I would say that's 1, 3, 5, 7, and 2, 4, 6, the resonance lines of those chakras, which spiral around, coil around Sushumna, the central channel, the basic rays of 1, 4, 7, or the nodal points of 1, 4, 7. So you can take a look at that also. And so that's also an interesting way of looking at 7-ray development. Okay?
You know that this Ida Pingala made me think about, in terms of energy, you have what we call sinusoidal wave.
Sinusoidal.
Yes, yeah. Sinusoidal wave, which is going up and down, and there is this. This is actually what if I remember correctly, what Tesla brought to electricity that Edison didn't know, which is alternative current, which is alternation of potentiation. It goes with the word potentiation.
Yeah, AC.
Yeah.
Alternating current.
Yes, the plus and minus, 0 and 1, the moon and the sun. It's also what we could say it goes with what Gautama said. That we don't have to take care of suffering if it hasn't risen. That the heaps of thing.
Well, the heaps are the skandhas.
Yeah, but of heaps, it's also the image of a sinusoidal wave.
Okay, but well, Gautama framed Buddhism as the middle way. And when we went through the discussion of Maitripa and Manasikara and Gunter Mate's book, a fine blend of Madhyamaka and Mahamudra. Madhyamaka means middle path or middle way, proposed philosophically by Nagarjuna, which is, 1,000 years after Gautama, or more than that, actually, 1,500 or so. But Buddhism as middle way between eternalism and nihilism. Eternalism and nihilism means affirmation and denial, saying it is or it isn't. Self is. No, self isn't. Gautama framed Buddhism, and it really is between the two of them. And so Gautama doesn't say there is no self. He really did indeed say, I think there's a guy called the Angry Photographer, and a client of mine brought this to me. He's really a strange fellow on YouTube, Angry Photographer, but he knows Buddhism very well too, and was saying, no self. Gautama didn't say there's no self. He said there's no self in the skandhas, meaning even consciousness is not a self. That doesn't say there is no self. It says there's no self over here. But, anatta also means that there's no substantial separative identity that's eternal. But to say there's nothing is also mistaken. There's a sense of self, and there is presence, and presence is identity. True self is presence. Identity is presence. Presence is boundless, and that's really non-differentiated. It's nature. The nature of presence is undifferentiated. That's a very heavy term also, presence, as true self is presence. What is presence? Find it for yourself. So, but Gautama really was talking about middle way, and that's the difference between not attached to Ida or Pingala, and not making a big deal, not being too heavy, not being imbalanced between love and wisdom, between love and light, between preference for 1357 and a preference for 246, action and stillness, not attached to doing, not attached to being, not attached to saying, not attached to silence, but rightly saying and rightly keeping silent, rightly favoring love and rightly favoring wisdom, depending. But, the real balance comes from freedom. Only the one who's free is really balanced. And anyone who's not free, is seeking balance. But seeking balance is not being balanced. Real balance is freedom from balance, freedom from balancing, freedom from the need for balancing, freedom from seeking balancing because one is finished seeking is the real freedom, and that is the only true balance. And that's freedom from the last three skandhas, of course, the last three fetters, meaning ahamkara, sense of self, conceit, 8, and restlessness, 9, which is the result of imbalance or ignorance. So avidya, 10. So 10, 9, and 8 establishes chronic imbalance or chronic alternation between Ida and Pingala, rather than the middle way where there's non-obstruction from root to crown, which one can feel. And then one's finished with the 7-dimensional journey. But, that's what we're seeking. But if you seek too hard, too tight, right? Gautama said not too tight, not too loose. If you seek too tight, you're making obstruction. And if you don't seek at all, which is called too loose, you're going to continue to cultivate obstruction or distortion. So seek, but don't seek too hard. That's, I think, one way to formulate that.
But ultimately, we are all on the path. I mean, the creation is going back to the logos. Ultimately, it's just a question of time, I'd say.
Yeah, of course. Well, the creation has never been separate from the logos.
Yeah, so
that's why some yogis just laugh a lot, because even though there really is suffering, creation has never departed from perfection. And creation is a play of light at this level where we believe substantiality, or we believe duality, we believe experience, the apparent reality of experience. There's a lot of suffering and angst and pain. And yet that dukkha, as real as anything else, is also a dance of light. And it's not only dukkha. Things are not as they appear, nor are they otherwise. So dukkha is not only dukkha. Dukkha is logoic sukha also, or sunya, which is not to take away the validity of anybody's pain and misery, but it's not only as experienced.
Yeah, it's like from hell to earth to heaven. It's still God. It's just experienced in a different way.
Right, like that. Right. The logos has never been separate from its expression. I mean, the river has never been separate from the mountain pool, the mountaintop pool, the pool at the top of the mountain that comes down as countless rivers, is one life. And if we're pointing to the river, we have to give it a name, and we map its contours, and we can talk about its progression and change over time. Meanwhile, its identity has never been separate from the mountain pool from which it emerged. And that's the unity of source and differentiation, source and its expression.
Yeah, that's the great hope, which is that wherever we are, we can always change the path and reconnect in a way with the logos and being free and have something better. It's
right.
really about our personal attitude where we are.
Yeah, I mean that's the resolution of what seems to be the paradox between free will and determination, or causal determinism, meaning X creates Y, Y creates Z, Z creates A, and A goes to B, and the future is bound by the present, and the present is bound by the past. That kind of deterministic view, the billiard ball, David Hume, and I think guys like that. The resolution between that view, which has relative truth to it, obviously, there is causality and there is conditioned causality, and free will. The resolution of that is that we are not only conditioned beings. Our true nature is beyond time and space, and like Ross said, the crystallized healer has no will. The crystallized healer is akin to higher self. No will means no distorted willfulness, it seems. And no distortion, or relatively no distortion of higher self, is relatively apart from the deterministic causal conditioned sequence, or any causal determinism. So we are not only in space-time, we're also in time-space, and we're also outside time and space, all simultaneously. And because of that, there are levels of our being, that may be tapped into, that are outside the deterministic time-space causal sequentiality system. And that's some kind of, as far as I can see, that's some kind of resolution of free will and determinism. But it's a question of how much can one tap that. And that's the purpose of doing good in Buddhism. The purpose of doing good in Buddhism is so that, meaning virtue or shila, is so that one can get to samadhi, concentrated mind, clarity mind, peaceful mind, so that one not only can have insight, but I would say tap into the non-conditional, tap the unconditioned, I mean, nirvana is the unconditioned. That's another phrase for it. And the deathless means the birthless, meaning the non-arising. That includes basically Atman and up, or that is touched, even though maybe it's rightly a property or a condition of eighth density, it's absolutely resonated by resonance with sixth and seventh densities as well. Meaning, to whatever degree, intelligent energy, Kundalini, can go from 1 to 6, and we can be conscious of that progression, free, unobstructed movement to some degree from 1 to 6. We're tapping into or resonating to some degree with the non-conditioned, outside time and space, even outside time-space, right? There's space-time, 3D physical, there's time-space, which is all that's other than space-time, but there's also outside of time, time-space, and both of them, space-time, time-space, outside that scheme is the end of sixth density, as far as I can tell. And one can tap into that too, because that's just another level of the 7-dimensional system we're using. And that is associated with true free will. Okay?
That's beautiful.
Okay, now we can go back to eating fried rice at the 7-Eleven.
No, I'm not feeling like that. I'm feeling high, so I'm not feeling like eating, heavy food. I'm more like still drinking the how would you say the hydromel nectar of the spiritual etheric realm.
Yeah, well, it's there's a term in Buddhism. It came in later, or Sanskrit from yoga. I think it's related to the term bindu. Bindu, if you look at it, it's spelled Bindu, Bindu is usually, the symbol of the woman, the Indian woman with the red dot on her third eye, right? But in esoteric Buddhism, if you look at this page, here's the next YouTube doc. This down the page on the Wikipedia on Bindu, related to chakra, related to tantra, both in Buddhism and Hinduism. Bindu Visarga, falling drop. The falling drop. This point is below Sahasrara, meaning 7 chakra, and above Ajna, 6.6. Hey. So it's midway between 7 and 6, and I'd say 6.6. 6.6. Represented by a crescent moon and a white drop. Represents manifestations of creations such as consciousness. You mean the root of Vijnana. The root of the 5th skandha is 6.6. Yes, indeed, I'd say. One can actually taste it, or taste in the mouth the consequence of stimulation of 6.6. And right here, Bindu Visarga is said to be the source of Bindu fluid, not a red dot on her head or her forehead, but a fluid in your mouth, which contains a nectar, amrita, and a poison. Fluid is released from Bindu Visarga, which is what? Which is some aspect of the pituitary or the pineal gland, I would say. I always thought that the pituitary is 6 and pineal is 7. Some people have that reversed, and occultists probably like to hide what they think to be true. But I'd always say that pituitary is the gland associated with 6th ray, pineal associated with 7th ray. When whatever, maybe, pituitary gland associated with 6.6 is activated, then it's said here the fluid is released, a real fluid. It tastes actually like germanium. If you know the mineral supplement called germanium, it tastes just like germanium. The fluid is released from Bindu Visarga, can be stored in Lalana chakra, purified in Vishuddha, right? Vishuddhi, wisdom, discernment, 5th chakra. So it goes from 6.6 to 5. It's associated with 6.6 upper forehead. When Vishuddha is inactive and fluid flows to Manipura, I think that's 2nd, whereas consumed, leading to physical decline, meaning getting old. Anyway, according to Hatha Yoga Pratipika, Hatha Yoga, or yogi, anyone doing meditation, can prolong their life by controlling the flow of the fluid. And they can, so the Hindus are very smart, these yogis, they really know a lot. So the practice of Kichari Mudra means a seal, Kichari is I don't know what. The practitioner can manipulate the flow of the bindu, that fluid. It's associated with higher 6 chakra activation, I'd say. Manipulate the flow from Lalana to Vishuddha to 5th ray, purified into Amrita. Hey, that's what you're talking about. So anyway, and so the Tibetan Buddhism understands this too, right? That's where the Mahamudra tradition in the 11th century was coming from. These guys were adapting esoteric Hindu yoga into, proto-Vajrayana, esoteric Buddhist Mahayana Tantrism. So Bindu refers to the subtle body. Which subtle body? Many. Which is composed of drops and winds. How about that? So Tibetan medicine also knows about drops and winds. Very serious, very deep stuff. And so, anyway, Bindu is real. And one can, to whatever extent one can allow 6.6 chakra, 6.6 chakra subplane activation. One can feel this or taste it even. So it's very real.
That was great. Thank you. It was awesome.
Okay.
I need time to digest all that and re-listen many times to all that.
Yeah, send me the file. I'd like to listen to it also.
Yeah, I will.
Thank you very much. Yeah, it's nice talking. See you next time, and good night.